welcome to today's news on Nebo TV. My name is Agbaje Onome.
On the update of today's news, EU gives Nigeria 50 million euro to fight coronavirus. The European Union has given Nigeria 50 million euro to fight the coronavirus disease, which has killed at least 10 people in the West African country. The donation was announced when the President, retired Major General Muhammadu Buhari, received in audience the EU delegation at the Council Chambers, State House, Abuja on Tuesday. The Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, made this known via a tweet. Adesina said head of the EU delegation at the event, Ambassador Ketil Carlsen, who announced the donation, also commended Buhari for extending Lagos, Ogun, and Abuja lockdown. Carlsen was quoted as describing Buhari's address to the nation on Monday as powerful, adding that the retired general looked bold and necessary measures. EU gives Nigeria a grant of 50 million euro to fight COVID-19, Adesina tweet. Also, the personal assistant on new media to the President, Bashi Ahmad, said the European Union has donated a grant of 50 million to the federal government. Their contributions to the Nigerians' fight against COVID-19. The head of the EU delegation, Ambassador Ketil Carlsen, announces the donation at a meeting with President.
We are very pleased today to announce that the European Union will provide 50 million euros in addition to the 1.2 million euros already provided, equivalent to some 21 billion naira, channeled through the UN COVID-19 Basket Fund. And this is, as the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs already mentioned, by far the largest single grant contribution that we are aware of to the response in Nigeria, and it is certainly the largest support that the EU is providing anywhere outside of Europe currently. So we heard your call for assistance, Your Excellency, and we reacted swiftly.
The European Union's proposed package for Nigeria in the sum of 50 million euros will go a long way in supporting Nigeria's efforts.
10 Nigerians awaiting evacuation from UK test positive. No fewer than 10 Nigerians out of the 40 persons subjected to the mandatory COVID-19 test for those who registered in the United Kingdom to return home have tested positive. The results of the test, which were released on Monday in London, indicated that 10 individuals were asymptomatic, raising fears that they might have infected other people. This was said to have sparked panic among the staff of the Nigerian High Commission in London and other Nigerians who heard about the development. It was exclusively reported on April 11th that 2,000 Nigerians, mostly in the United States, the United Kingdom, China, and the United Arab Emirates, had registered and indicated their intention to come home. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which compiled a list of such stranded Nigerians, gave some conditions. The ministry said the intending returnees would pay for their journey back home. Also, it stated that there would be compulsory tests for COVID-19 before coming back to Nigeria. One of our correspondents gathered on Monday that many of the stranded Nigerians were students and businessmen who traveled to the United States, the United Kingdom, China, Australia, and the United Arab Emirates. It was learned that many of those who tested positive were not residents in the UK, but went to the European country for business and educational purposes. A source in the High Commission explained that Nigerians who registered for the evacuation were being tested in a batch of 40. The source added that another batch would soon undergo COVID-19 test. He stated, "We have just received the result of the first batch of 40 Nigerians who registered for evacuation to Nigeria. The result shows that about 10 persons tested positive to COVID-19 and they have commenced treatment in isolation centers." What is generating consternation is the fear that they might have infected many other people since they were not showing symptoms of the deadly disease. The spokesman of Nigeria in Diaspora Commission, Abdul Rahman Balogun, confirmed the development, stating that those who tested positive had commenced treatment. The Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okoye has announced the extension of the stay-at-home order in the state by 2 weeks. He said this is a part of measure to contain the spread of coronavirus pandemic in the state. Okoye made the statement on Tuesday via his Twitter handle. The earlier declared restriction order by Okoye, which started on April 1st, expired Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. He said, "With 3 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Delta State, we are working round the clock to curb the spread of the virus. This is why I announced a 2-week extension of the stay-at-home order, as well as a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. curfew. In line with the recommendations of global health experts, at the end of this week, we will begin the process of distributing free face masks across Delta State. Additionally, I informed our citizens and residents that we are also working to fast-track the distribution of food items to low-income families and communities to cushion the effects of the lockdown."
Alright, still on today's news on Nebo TV. Nigeria records 11 new coronavirus cases in Lagos. Lagos State has recorded 11 new cases of coronavirus, bringing the total number of confirmed infections in Nigeria to 373. This is coming few hours after the Nigeria Center for Disease Control announced 11 new cases in the country. Giving an additional update via its Twitter handle at 11 p.m., NCDC said 11 new cases of COVID-19 have been reported in Lagos State. As of 11 p.m. on the 14th of April, there are 373 confirmed cases of COVID-19 reported in Nigeria. 99 have been discharged with 11 deaths. Of the 19 cases earlier announced, 14 were recorded in Lagos, 2 in the Federal Capital Territory, and 1 each in Kano, Akwa Ibom, and Edo State. Lagos recorded a total number of 25 confirmed COVID-19 cases on Tuesday, highest to be recorded by any state in one day in Nigeria. NCDC added, currently Lagos has 214 cases, FCT Federal Capital Territory 58, Osun 20, Edo 18, Oyo 11, Ogun 9, Bauchi 6, Kaduna 6, Akwa Ibom 6, Katsina 5, Delta 3, Enugu 2, Ekiti 2, Rivers 2, Kwara 4, Ondo 3, Benue 1, Niger 1, Anambra 1, and Kano 3. Another report states that coronavirus-related death was recorded in Lagos on Tuesday. Lagos State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akinbayomi, said the disease is a 56-year-old Nigerian man who returned from the United States. 6 out of the fatalities in Nigeria were recorded in Lagos, 2 in Abuja, while Edo, Katsina, and Delta State recorded 1 each. The newly released statistics showed that the virus had spread to 19 states and the Federal Capital Territory. Report states that Buhari on Monday announced the extension of the lockdown order in Lagos, Abuja and Ogun State in a bid to curb the spread of coronavirus. This was after an initial lockdown order declared by the retired general on March 31st elapsed. In a nationwide broadcast on Monday, the president extended the restriction by 14 days, saying the decision was a difficult one for his regime. Buhari said the initial lockdown helped Nigeria in its fight against coronavirus. Alright, moving forward to the northern governors. We can't lock down northern governors spoke. The Northern State Governors Forum on Monday met to discuss the impact of coronavirus in the region. The meeting, which was conducted via teleconference and chaired by the forum's chairman, Governor Simon Laglon of Plateau State, shared experience on measures adopted by individual states to deal with the disease. A statement by Lalong Director of Press and Public Affairs, Dr. Macha Makut, on Monday stated that after receiving reports from various states, the governors resolved to strengthen preventive measures against the pandemic through enhanced boundary controls and surveillance, as well as great collaboration to ensure that there was a synergy among them in restriction of movement. The statement said they agreed that at the moment each state would adopt the measure suitable to its setting because total lockdown of the region will come at a very high cost, since most of its citizens are farmers who need to go to farms since the rains have started. Another issue discussed by the northern governors was the issue of palliatives from the federal government, where they regretted that so far no state in the region had received a dime as special allocation, despite the fact that some of them have recorded cases while others are making frantic efforts to prevent any outbreak as well as prepare against any eventually. This, they observed, has eaten deep into the pockets of the state, as they have spent a lot of money already and may not be able to sustain this for a long time. Since prevention is better than cure, they canvassed that the federal government grants them some special funds, just as it has done to other states. The northern governors lamented that the region has no testing center, which is very disturbing. They resolved to again liaise with the federal government to ensure that each state at least gets one testing center, while highly populated ones get two. The governors also discussed the economic impact of COVID-19 on the region and decided that they needed to take a holistic look at the economic prospects of the region with a view to repositioning it for less reliance on federal allocation and to prepare for the future by diversifying to areas of comparative advantage such as agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, and human capital development. They consequently set up 7-man committee chaired by the governor of Kebbi State, Atiku Bagudu, to fashion out the way forward.
Now moving to Edo State. Don't sack workers, Edo begs employers. The Edo State government on Tuesday urged employers of labor in the state not to lay off members of staff, but rather explore human-faced measures to support workers who are at home due to the restrictions imposed to halt the spread of coronavirus. Governor Godwin Obaseki, who made the appeal, said, "I encourage employers not to lay off staff at this period, but to explore human-faced measures to support employees. This is a time to show love and a sense of community, so we can win this war together as one people. We want to screen up to 500 citizens in Edo over the next few weeks, and I am pleased to inform you that we now have 2 additional testing facilities in Benin City, where we plan to test up to 5,000 citizens." Still on the news, federal government sacks contractors over delay in cash disbursement. The federal government has ordered the termination of contracts of 2 payment service providers for the failure to begin the conditional cash transfer scheme to beneficiaries in 4 states of the Federation assigned to them. Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Umar Farouk, gave the order for the termination of the contracts, according to a statement issued by her ministry on Tuesday. The affected states are Bayelsa and Akwa Ibom in the south-south, Abia in the southeast, and Zamfara in the northwest. The ministry stated that the immediate termination of the contract would be with the guidance of the World Bank. It is said a new procurement process had been inaugurated using World Bank procurement guidelines to ensure that payment begins in the affected state on or before April 28, 2020. The statement named the 2 PSPs involved in the contract termination as Data Mining Company and Innovation NIPOST. Umar Farouk said the federal government could not accept delays in the current payment round of 20,000 naira stipend to beneficiaries in poor and vulnerable households under any excuse in the 4 states or any other state of the Federation. She said, "The failure of any payment service provider to meet the contractual agreement is unacceptable. The federal government through the ministry cannot allow contractors to derail the immediate conditional cash transfer to the poor and the vulnerable." Coming to the end of today's news on Nebo TV. Court grants 2 Calverton pilots 10 passengers bail. 2 pilots with Calverton helicopters, Samuel Okoye and Samuel Buhari, were on Tuesday granted bail by a magistrate court in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. The pilots were arrested on Tuesday, April 7, 2020, for allegedly flouting the no-flight order of the state government. Also granted bail were 10 passengers of Calverton helicopters, who were flown into the state by the 2 pilots. Alright, that's all for today's news on Nebo TV. Hope to see you next time. Stay safe. God bless you and God bless Nigeria.
The government's directive was however flouted on Tuesday as an aircraft belonging to one of the private airlines landed at the Port Harcourt Air Force Base with a number of passengers on board.
The pilot and the co-pilot have been apprehended by the NAV commander. This aircraft landed without any signal or permission from the authority. We don't know their mission here. Maybe they are coming here to sabotage the activities of the state and the security agencies that have put everything on the ground.